All right. So as I said, I was gonna play the game while we did this, but I don't want anybody to feel like stuff maybe and get spoiled, and I don't think it would. But regardless, it doesn't matter. We're gonna just do it this way on the loading screen. So all right. As I said, I've changed how I'm gonna do this. I made an actual outline today. I'm not just gonna be rambling on, trying to remember stuff. I wrote down my thoughts after the episode, so we're gonna go through them. We start off apps. Well, let me just get this out of the way. This spoiler warning, I'm going to be spoiling the events of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 3. Now, I'm not going to be spoiling anything past that, so you're good. If you just want the recap of the episode, that's fine. But I am going to spoil anything that's happened up to this point in either the show or game. So, just you've been warned. All right. We start out and we see Tommy is with the dead bodies from the battle. Now, specifically, there's one body he's tending to, which would be Joel, his brother. Now we know it's Joel because we see the watch and Tommy's washing his body. We don't get a face shot of Pedro Pascal, which I think is fine. Like, I'm glad they're not continuing to just use him whenever they can. Like they're going to do it sparingly, I believe. So that was good. Excuse me. That was good. Obviously, we see the watch with the 2 bullet holes from when Sarah was killed on Outbreak Day. Tommy then delivers a line that just wrecked me, saying, "Give Sarah my love," talking to Joel. Because if you remember, back in the beginning, that's who started all this. It was Joel, Tommy, and Sarah in the first episode, first part of the game, everything. So now Tommy's kind of the only one left from the original 3, which sucks for him, but at least he's got a family now. So next thing, we get to the hospital. Now the hospital is I should say before that, I already messed up. The opening shot is we see all of the dead infected, and they're like on fire, smoldering, and it's clear Jackson got wrecked by this attack. After the scene with Tommy and Joel's body, we then cut to the hospital, and the hospital is in absolute chaos. Just chaos, chaos, chaos. Excuse me. There's people running around. It's clear that like a lot of people got injured during this battle. So they're all doing that. We cut to Ellie. She's been knocked out, which I guess she's like probably the ride back. And she didn't look great on the ride back after what happened in the cabin, obviously. So, and she got kicked in the ribs. She wakes up and just delivers this incredible scream. And I listened to the podcast from the showrunners, and they were basically saying like Ellie's still in that room watching Abby do what she did. So Ellie wakes up screaming. Bella Ramsey just does an incredible job with this, as always. Next, we cut to the intro, and I was wondering if they were going to do this. I had forgotten at the end of the intro that you see the two little spores pop up, like representing Joel and Ellie. But somebody was like, I wonder if they're going to take one away. And sure enough, when you get to the end of the intro, it's just one person, not 2 anymore. Which just means, like, obviously Joel's not here anymore. We then get a deviation from the game, which again, I don't feel some type of way about. We get a deviation from the game, and it cuts to 3 months later. In the 3 months, it's clear that they've been, rebuilding, doing stuff, all that jazz. Jesse and Tommy, well, they're reinforcing the wall, but Jesse and Tommy are like, I guess they're building a fence. I'm not really sure what they're exactly doing here, but it's clear Tommy's lost his fastball a little bit. Just a hair, because he cannot knock the stake into the ground, so he's got to hand the hammer over to Jesse, who, by the way, is yacked. I did not realize Jesse was walking around stacked like that, so good for him. You get this cool look between Tommy and Jesse, where Tommy's like, damn, I'm getting old, Jesse knocks stake in the ground, good lord. We then cut back to the hospital. Ellie looks much better now. Clearly 3 months have gone by. She's been in recovery. She's feeling better. She's feeling good. But The doctor's like, okay, we're ready to let you out of the hospital, but you got to see one more person first. And I was kind of curious how this was going to come into play. In walks Gail, played by the just marvelous Captain O'Hara, Catherine O'Hara, excuse me. And I figured she was going to come up again. I didn't. There's no way you get an actor like Catherine O'Hara and you're just like, oh, she's in there for 2 scenes and that's it. Like she's going to come back up. But Ellie has to meet with Catherine O'Hara before she leaves the hospital, before she's discharged, I guess. And she lies to Gail. Gail's asking her like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" Blah blah blah, and Ellie's like, "Oh, sad and stuff, of course, duh." And she's like throwing out some things that she knows Gail wants to hear. Like she says, "Oh, your last conversation with someone doesn't define the whole relationship," which sounds good. It's true, but Ellie doesn't believe that, and she's just like placating Gail to try to get her to leave her alone so she can leave the hospital. And I really like the way it was described by Craig Mazin, where he was said that it's kind of like a sparring match between the two without the violence. And it's very clear that Ellie's lying and Gail is not buying it, but they're both like playing nice about it. Eventually, um, Ellie leaves the hospital, and as she's walking out, like while she's talking to Gail, it's very much like a jovial scene, like they're joking around, poking fun at each other. But as soon as she walks down that hallway, the camera cuts like right here, and you see Ellie's facial expression just change, darken. She's got murder on the mind, baby. We then cut to Joel's house. Now, there's flowers in front of the fence. It's been 3 months, so in the game, it's like the next day or a couple days after, so all the flowers are fresh and whatnot. In the show, obviously, that's not happening, so they've been there a while, so the flowers are decayed. But there's still a lot of them, so it was clear, like, hey, Joel was very important to the community. We then get the part where Ellie walks through the house to find Joel's revolver, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on before then. She's walking through and just like you see, it's really interesting to me that you get this scene with Ellie walking through the house of Joel. Because presumably, well, not presumably, Ellie used to live there. We get a shot of her old room with the mattress ripped out. So we know she used to live here. So she knows what this is like. And I have never lost a loved one close to me that I like lived in the same place as. So I don't know what that's like to walk into a shared space and then it's like, what the hell? A giant piece of this is just missing. So I don't know what that was like. But Bella Ramsey, they did such a great job in this. Paranormal entities. Pretty good, pretty good. So Ellie's walking through the house. We're getting like glimpses of the stuff that Joel would do just in his private time. Like he's whittling an owl and he's got the guitar on the wall, which the guitar on the wall is interesting to me. And you know what? I made my outline and I forgot something. Gail asks Ellie when the last time she talked to Joel was and if it was New Year's Eve at the dance. Ellie says yes. I think she's lying. Because how did the guitar get back into her room when Joel had it on the porch? I mean, I don't think she walked up to him and jerked it out of his hand and then walked it back to the house. I'm almost positive a conversation happened here. So she's lying, but anyway. Back to the house. Bella Ramsey is walking around the house as Ellie. And Ellie is, interacting with the things that used to be there. We see Joel's old guitar on the wall with no strings, which begs the question, did Joel just take the strings off his own guitar to give it to Ellie, which is something Joel would do. I could so see him doing that. But regardless, the important part comes when Ellie gets to Joel's bedroom and there's the little red box on the bed. She opens the box and there are two things in there. One is the watch. Obviously very important to Joel. Not as important to Ellie, though. Ellie doesn't have this emotional connection to the watch. So she doesn't throw it away, but like she moves it aside. That's not what she came to get. She picks up the 347 Magnum 347, 57. I don't know anything about guns, so whatever. She picks up the Magnum, like Dirty Harry, and decides that she's gonna, that's what she wants to take. She then goes into the closet, and this scene was heartbreaking. She goes to Joel's jacket, and she smells it. And again, I haven't lost anybody like this, so I don't but this makes sense to me. Smell can really do a good job at triggering memories. I mean, we've all had this. You smell something and you just randomly remember like a time 10 years ago or whatever. I think that's safe that we've all experienced that. So she smells the jacket, immediately just starts crying her eyes out because she's obviously not. She hasn't processed any of this. She just hasn't. So now Dina's in the house. She calls for Ellie, and Ellie's like, nope, wiping away the tears. No. No one can see me like this, which I don't know, man. That's crazy. Like, you just lost your father figure. I get it. Ellie's got to put on the brave face, whatever. We cut to Dina downstairs. Ellie goes to talk to her. Dina has brought cookies to placate Ellie. Well, not placate. What's the word I'm looking for here? Pacify Ellie, because she says she's about to upset her. Now, how is she going to upset her, you may ask? Dina told Ellie that she didn't remember anything about the group that attacked Joel. Dina's reasoning here is because if she would have told Ellie that, Ellie would have ripped the tubes out and she would have been straight on to Seattle. So Dina now, which is true, I totally believe that. Ellie is just, I mean, we saw the look she had after, excuse me. We saw the look in her eye when she's walking out of the hospital 3 months after. So what do you think she's going to do the next day or the week after? Like, if that rage is that strong 3 months after, it was probably 10 times stronger in the immediate time after the events. So I totally believe that Ellie would have pulled those tubes out of her arm and ran her ass to Seattle. Dina makes a point here that I've heard differing opinions on. Dina says another reason she didn't tell her is because if the only thing you know about someone is where they're going to end up, you should let them get there first. Now, I see what Dina's saying, because you're in Jackson, Wyoming. You got to go all the way to Seattle. There's a lot of paths you could take to get there. So I understand where Dina's coming from. I do. But also, you don't know what those people are going back to. Like, and at the end of the episode, it's very clear that, like, this is a big operation. So I'm not saying Dina did the wrong thing, because I think it would have been wrong if she would have just been like, oh, well, screw it. Ellie can't go. I'll just go. So you can't do this without Ellie, but you can't tell Ellie until she's fully recovered, because then she's just going to be a liability. So I don't think Dina did the wrong thing here, but I'm just saying I see both sides of the argument. Dina then says she knows where they are, because they're in Seattle. She knows they're there because of a story Eugene told her about the WLF, the Washington Liberation Front, which was the patch on one of their backpacks. She then says, oh, they must be a small group because no one's ever talked about them since. Which, this logic, I don't understand. I don't get this. Like, it's the apocalypse. Like, what are you going to do? Get on Twitter and be like, oh, I ain't seen nothing about the WLF in a while. They must be pretty small. Like, what do you mean? You have no idea. They're in Seattle. It's 900 miles away, Dina. How do you know that they're a small outfit? So this was just stupid, in my opinion. Or whatever. They're going to be a 357. Thank you, Dad. Thank you. Is it that far behind? Anyway. So they decide they need to go talk to Tommy. They need to run this by Tommy first and see what's going on. They meet Tommy, and we don't get the scene of Ellie relaying all this information, kind of because we don't need to. We just heard Dina tell it to her, so like, just let's get to what Tommy's going to say. Tommy is like, I don't know, we got to think about this. Ellie says, well, we don't have to think about anything. Like, Joel would be halfway to Seattle right now if it was us. And Tommy says, no. He would be halfway to Seattle to save my life. When we lost people, it was different. He would just blame himself. And then Tommy has like this fantastic line that really like it put the story into perspective for me a little bit because I'm guilty of this as well. He looks at Ellie and says, "Don't talk to me like I didn't know him. He was my brother," which is completely true. Obviously, Ellie and Joel have been through a lot, but like Tommy's his brother. And I think I forget that sometimes when I'm going through the story because I'm just like, oh, obviously Ellie, like the most important person for Joel was Ellie. And maybe it was, but like Tommy is still his brother. So he still knew him. Joel. Tommy says, okay, we need to take this to Maria, to the council, and vote on it because we need to get a posse together. And this was kind of fun, you know. Old West talk. We're going to get a posse together to go to Seattle. Tommy then moves on, gives Ellie a hug, and this was a nice scene. I mean, I like that scene. But Tommy then tells Dina if he ever lies to her again, she's gonna have some kind of duty for a month. I don't really know what it means. So retention duty, I don't know what that means. So if you do, comment down below. I don't know, or put it in the chat. Okay. We then cut to a group of individuals in Seattle. Now we know it's in Seattle because of the trail marker. So that's not a spoiler. We know it's in Seattle. These people have like woodland garb on. They've got cuts on their cheeks, and it's clear that they're like not anti-weaponry. They have bows and arrows, but they don't have guns. So kind of like anti-technology, I guess you would say. These people, it's revealed in the after the episode, but the name of them is not going to spoil anything about them, I don't think. They're called the Seraphites. We get this scene of one of the Seraphites and his young daughter, and they're walking, and she's asking, where are we going? Like, you know, just asking a bunch of questions like kids do. He says, well, I can't tell you where we're going because we don't know yet. We're trying to escape a war. Which begs the question, who are they warring against? TBD. The little girl asks for a hammer, and the dad gives it to her, and he says, oh, do you feel safe now? And the little girl says, yes. Well, the dad then comes back and says, well, you're going to feel, that's not going to protect you. You're going to feel even safer when we get some distance. The little girl asks about the prophet. She's like, well, why can't the prophet just protect her? And the dad says, well, the prophet's been dead for 10 years, so I wouldn't expect any help from her. She wasn't like a magical creature. She just saw things other people didn't see. We get him communicating with whistles back and forth several times, and like it's clear that the dad is like asking the daughter questions like, do you know what the whistle means? He's like, yeah, it means we're all clear or whatever. At the end of the scene, we get another whistle. And this one's like faster. It's a lot faster, and it's clear something's up. The dad starts to panic, and they all scatter. There's like, take cover. They scatter, get in like that. They kind of like Lord of the Rings, run off the road and get behind the little stump, like 3 feet from the damn road or the trail, but whatever. They do that, and then the little girl looks at her dad, and she goes, demons, which I can only assume means infected. That sounds like something religious people would call the infected. She says demons, and he says no, wolves. Cut. Well, before we move on to the next scene, this was really cool. It gave us some insight into the Seraphites and their culture, which I thought that was great. We then cut to Ellie and Jesse in Ellie's room, and Ellie's training. She's hitting the bag, trying to get her strength back up. Jesse's like, wow, you're in better shape than I thought you would be for someone who's been sitting on your ass for 3 months. Like, what were you doing? Push-ups when they weren't looking? She's like, yeah, and crunches. So Ellie's been working out in the hospital, which is probably not smart, but whatever. Ellie presses Jesse about the meeting because we get the reveal here that Jesse's now on the council. So he's going to be one of the people voting to decide if they send the posse or not. Ellie basically she's like whipping votes here. She's trying to make sure that she's got enough votes to get this party together and go to Seattle. She asks Jesse because she's already verified with Tommy, like, you will back us, right? And Tommy says, yes, of course. So she's got that vote, but she needs more. So she asks Jesse the same thing, like, well, how are you going to vote? And he's like, I can't talk about that. Like, I can't talk about upcoming votes. He then goes to leave, and he tells Ellie, hey, write your thoughts down and read them out loud tomorrow. Ellie gets real defensive here, and she's like, why? Because I'm stupid. And Jesse says, no, because you're angry. And the council is, no one's going to vote for angry, which is really good advice. I mean, Ellie is prone to just flying off the handle and saying whatever the hell comes into her head, which has not done good things for her. So, very good advice from Jesse to say, take a beat, write it down, go from there. We then cut to the council meeting. It starts out with this guy who I forget his name. Name's like, it's not Jim, but it's something like that. And in the credits, he is listed as Boring Jim because Jim wants to talk about the corn and the chicken versus turkey debate. And he's just going on and on and on. And the council room is packed and everybody's just like, God, shut up. This is not, no one cares about this. But he does. And he is just droning on about this. And finally, Maria's like, okay, we've heard it. Like, we got it. Maybe we should talk about what we came here to discuss. And he goes, oh, well, I don't have an opinion on the Seattle thing. And Maria's like, all right, then shut up. Go away. And this was such a good scene to me because if you've ever been to a work meeting or any meeting really, especially a meeting that's about something like incredibly important, like monumental, we got to make a decision on X. There is always someone at that meeting who doesn't care about like the big ticket item you're there to discuss. They just want to get their, thoughts out on some random thing that only they care about. So this felt like incredibly real to me, and I really liked it. After that, we get Rachel. Rachel stands up and she says, hey, like, of course we all love Joel, but like we all lost people. I lost my sister. Like, we've all lost people and we're too hurt and it's too soon. Which, she's not wrong. She brings up the fact that they want to take 16 of their best out of Jackson to Seattle, 900 miles away, where who the hell knows if they're coming back or not. And she makes a lot of sense. She makes good points here. We then get Carlisle, who stands up and says, he's basically like the forgive and forget, turn the other cheek type thing. It's like, we got to give them mercy. That's what separates us between them and the Raiders is we have mercy. Seth says piss on that. Seth, who you may remember from the first episode, called Ellie and Dina the slur, then tried to give Ellie the steak sandwiches. He stands up and he's got a cane now. He's walking with a limp. He basically says, no, we have to get our revenge on these people because if we don't, they're going to come back. They're going to come back and we have to retaliate. And he's saying exactly what Ellie wants to hear. For Seth, it's about revenge. He calls everybody a bunch of victims. This is not what Seth wants to do. Seth wants to load up this posse and go get his lick back. Get Ellie's lick back. Everybody's lick back, whatever. I understand the sentiment. Obviously, Seth is pissed. But this whole story is about the circle of violence and how it just goes and goes and goes. If you fight with people for long enough, you forget why you started fighting in the first place. It's just a continuous like, oh, I have to get mine back. And then when you get yours back, they have to do something back to you. And it's just bang, 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 bang. So they just keep retaliating. So I think Seth is wrong here, but I understand where he's coming from. Ellie then stands up and gives a speech. And she wrote everything down. Now, she's delivering this speech, but something's like, it's not coming across like she believes it. Because she doesn't. She's lying. She gives a speech about how, hey, this is not about revenge. This is about justice, and we need to give people justice, which she's talking to Maria. Maria used to be a prosecutor. She's appealing to Maria's sense of justice here and like the whole town. Because obviously, justice, most people, I would say, are more willing to sign up for justice as opposed to revenge. We get this great scene where it cuts to Gale in the gallery, and Gale's like looking at her like, I know you don't mean any of this. Like, why are you lying? You don't mean this. Ellie gets through her speech, and she's like, don't do it for me. Don't do it for Joel. Do it for us. Do it for us. We then get the council vote. It's a landslide. They're not sending the posse. It's 3-8, I think. I don't know what the exact vote is, but regardless, Ellie loses like tremendously. Now, there's been debate on who voted what. I think it's me personally. I think Tommy and Maria voted yes. I think they were like, yeah, we send this posse. We got to do it. Jesse is the one I'm not sure about. I could see him voting either way. He's pretty pragmatic, so I could see him saying like, "No, we don't have the manpower to do this. Like, I get it, but we can't." But I could also see him saying, "No, this is what's right. We have to do it." And again, I don't really believe that it's right, but regardless. The next scene is the baseball game. At the baseball game, it's a t-ball game. It's not like a real baseball game. It's a t-ball game, and Gale is sitting in the outfield, but she's like right on the edge of the infield, like with a cooler, just getting hammered, watching these kids play t-ball. Stop her screaming. She's getting hammered. Tommy walks up to her, and they get to talking. Tommy's worried that Ellie has picked up her revenge tendencies from Joel. Gale basically says like, hey, nurture versus nature debate. Nurture can only do this much. Most of it's just nature. And whatever path Ellie's on, Joel didn't send her down. I don't really think I agree. I just don't think you're born one way and that's just how it is. But that's how Gale sees it, and she's hammered, so who knows? Like, she's a therapist in the apocalypse and has no one to like unload the trauma that's being loaded up on her all the time. So I don't really trust Gale here. I don't trust her advice. Regardless, though, Tommy's like, ooh, okay. Gale basically says like she cannot be saved. This is too far gone. She can't be saved. So again, I don't really agree, but that's what Gale leaves Tommy with. And I'm gonna take a little pause here, go to the restroom. I'll be right back. Okay. After the baseball scene, it's nighttime. We cut to Ellie in her little garage room. She has enough ammo to take down a damn army. She's clearly packing for a trip. And like, this is very Ellie to me. She, went to the council and said, all right, I'll do it your way. Let's get the vote. But it didn't matter how the council voted. If the council said, yeah, we're going to send the posse, cool, we'll go with 16 people. If not, Ellie's going by herself. Like, this checked out to me. She's packing, and then somebody knocks on her door. She's like, hey, who is it? It's Dina. Dina's like, hey, let me in. Ellie says, no, I'm about to go to bed. And Dina says, no, I don't think that's where you're going. And then Ellie asks if she's alone. She says, yes, I am. All right, cool. Dina comes in and she's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what you're packing? Just guns and ammo? Got any food? Any medical supplies? How are you going to get there? Hope you don't, twist your ankle on the... Or she asks how you're going to get there. And Ellie says, oh, I'm going to go northwest. She's like, well, I hope you don't sprain an ankle on your journey northwest. Keep in mind, the journey from Jackson Hole to Seattle is 900 miles. and Ellie's going to have to ride a horse there. This is stupid ass planning. Okay? Dina comes in with a map and she's like, this is where we're going to go. We're going to cut through this trail, go through this national park, blah, 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 blah. So Dina's made a plan. And she's like, I got all these supplies. I know what we're going to need. And this was really funny as well. Ellie goes, wait, don't tell me you told Jesse about this plan. And Dina goes, Captain Wyoming, no, I didn't tell him about this plan. Meet me at the gate at, I think it's 3 a.m. This is what you need to pack. Everything else needs to fit in your backpack or in a holster. We then cut to the gate. And they're going to ride the same horse. They're taking Shimmer, Ellie's horse. As they are riding, well, you see Dina pulling the horse to the gate. Behind Dina is none other than Seth. Everyone's favorite bigot. He's got his little cane and he's just ding, 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 coming right along. Seth is like, hey, I'll trade you this gun, Ellie. It's a scoped rifle. It's clearly better than what Ellie has. And it's a forced trade, but he's like, trade me, it's better. So it's clear that the person Dina was talking about helping her out was Seth. Which this is another thing that feels like incredibly real to me, is when you have someone that you don't like. You hate this person. You fundamentally believe you are different people. You don't like this person at all. But then they do something and you're like, ooh, maybe we're not as different as I thought. And it's like a jarring feeling. So I get what Ellie's feeling here. But she takes the gun from Seth. Dina and her get on the horse. She shakes Seth's hand, and they're ready to set out. But before, Seth was like, oh, I would go with you guys, but I took some friendly fire on New Year's Day, which of course is the Battle of Jackson when the infected attacked the town. Ellie then delivers this line saying like, oh, you sure it was friendly? Like, maybe someone took the chance just to take you out. So anyway, they leave and they are on the road again. They set off, and previously Tommy had told Ellie, hey, we buried our dead 10 miles out of town if you want to visit Joel's grave. Ellie says, I'll visit on my way out of town to Seattle, which south, northwest, not the same way, but, you know, whatever. I guess it's a small detour. We get Joel's grave, and Ellie puts coffee beans on it, which, of course, mean a lot to Joel. It's his favorite drink, and, you know, it's incredibly rare now in the apocalypse, so that was big time. Very sad moment, obviously. She like puts the beans on top of the grave and then like grabs the dirt, like just trying anything to be close to him again. It was just absolutely heart-wrenching. We then get a travel montage. Now, I was curious if they were going to do it like in the game, because in the game, they set out and the next scene is them in Seattle. Like, we don't really get any travel stuff, which is, it works for the game. I'm totally fine with it. We get a little bit of a montage, but nothing crazy. We see Ellie on the horse, and she's now taking the Joel position. She's on the front of the horse. Dina's on the back. Dina is kind of acting like Ellie here, like trying to pass the time by playing like goofy little games where they're playing the alphabet game, but with bands. And Ellie's like, I wish you'd be quiet. I wish you'd be quiet. And like, it was so Joel coded to me. She's acting, this is how she knows how to act as the leader on an expedition. Then all of a sudden, Dina asks, oh, tell me about the first person you killed. Ellie says, well, I'm not going to tell you about the first one. It's too messed up. I'll tell you about the second one. Now, she won't tell Dina about the first one, obviously, because that would be Riley, the girl who's with her in the mall when Ellie first got bit. So that's too much. She's not going to share that. She does tell about the story in Kansas City or Pittsburgh, wherever. You know what I'm talking about. When the Raider's going to kill Joel and she has to kill him first. Dina then all of a sudden knows it's going to rain. And this was weird to me. I was like, how does she know this? Is she a meteorologist? I'm confused. Regardless, though, it cuts to the tent. It's pissing rain. And they're about to go to sleep. And Dina asks Ellie to rate their kiss from New Year's Eve. Ellie's in real defense mode here because it's obvious that she really cares about Dina and probably thinks that was like the best kiss ever, or like pretty high on the list, I would think. She tells Dina though it was a 6. Dina says, "What? No way it was a 6." And they get into a little argument about it. And she's like, "Well, you can always go back to Jesse." And Dina says, "Oh, I already did." It's like, all right. So we're playing a little fast and loose here with this. But then Dina hits Ellie with the, "Oh, well, I wasn't that high." And I'm like, "Dina, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're playing around here, and I'm not with it." So she's back with Jesse, but she's like leading Ellie on at the same time. I don't know. I was mad with Ellie in this scene. The next day, they're in Seattle. So all the time has passed. They're in Seattle, and I'm fine with this. I didn't need an episode or two of them trekking across the Pacific Northwest. I know people get upset about this, especially with the Game of Thrones comparisons, where they would just jump across Westeros in half an episode. I personally don't care. I don't care. I don't need to see this. Ellie and Dina roll up on a dead body. The dead body is one of the Seraphites that we saw earlier. Ellie's checking it out, and Dina disappears for a second. Ellie then gets real worried. She's like, "Where's Dina? Where's Dina?" Dina runs back and is throwing up. And she's like, "It's over there. It's over there. It's over there." Ellie goes and looks at what Dina was looking at. And it is the father and daughter that we were talking about before with the Seraphites, where she got the hammer and he was kind of like talking to her about it, blah, blah, blah. And they're dead. Ellie uses this to justify even more killing Abby. She says, "Well, if this was Abby's people, like, they're evil. We gotta do this." And Dina's like, "Yeah, I agree." So I guess they're not in Seattle yet. They're about 10 miles away. But they get to Seattle soon after that. We get a lot of Curtis and Viper references, which is from the game. It's a famous movie that they love. So we get a lot of those, which is cool. Seattle looks amazing. It's overgrown. You can tell the buildings have been bombed, probably during Outbreak Day. And it looks cool. It looks very almost inviting. Dina and Ellie use this because they don't see anyone in the city. They're still pretty far away, but they don't see anyone. So they use this as like a confirmation bias to say, "Oh, well, there must not be many wolves then." Which we will learn in mere moments could not be further from the truth. We cut to Manny, who's in the Space Needle, that was cool. I like that he was in the Space Needle. But he's standing watch, like telling the patrols or whatever, like, "Hell, you're good to move from zone 2 to zone 5 or whatever." We then cut to the wolves who are walking the streets. There's about 40 of them in this one little squad. They have a damn tank, and they roll through, and the episode ends. This episode, obviously, we didn't have the fireworks that we had last episode because it's hard to follow that up. So I was fine that we took a step back to kind of just catch our breath a little bit before the rest of the season. I'm concerned about Dina and Ellie. These two 19-year-old women are rolling into an army. They have a tank. Like, what are you going to do? So I'm interested to see what they do with that. But overall, I thought this episode was great. There was enough, we didn't get Pedro Pascal directly, but you could tell his fingerprints were all over it. I like the fact that they have not taken over, but Dina and Ellie are now clearly the leads, and I enjoyed that part of it. So I'm excited to see where they go for the last 4 episodes. I think it's about to get real crazy very fast. So if you're on the fence about whether or not this story is worth continuing to engage with after Joel's death, I would say watch the next episode. I think the next episode is going to be crazy, but we'll see. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Last of Us Season 2, Episode 3. I will post this to YouTube, so if you missed the stream, don't worry, you can watch it there. I'll be back next week to recap Season 2, Episode 4. And yeah, hope you all have a beautiful time, and I'll see you then.